Chapter 4, Effective Instruction in a Transitional Kindergarten Program. Transitional kindergarten students learn best when they explore their learning environment and participate in experiential, hands-on activities. Teachers can also maximize student learning by incorporating a variety of both student-initiated and teacher-guided learning opportunities to meet young students' developmental needs.
First of all, I think it's important to understand that in transitional kindergarten, it's very hands-on. It's about exploration and with the manipulative. So that's a very huge change.
Do you know that number? This is the teens it has on. Okay, 12. Think when you count. Think when you count or look at the chart. Point to the 12 here. Okay, what's next to it on this side?
Dirt.
Can you, all right. Great job. That's right.
Our instructional approach is much more developmental. It looks like play sometimes, however, the academic pieces are very firmly embedded in the daily program.
You're going to find that kids are moving a lot, they're talking a lot, they're engaged in a variety of learning experiences that are on the go all the time, and you need to learn to be able to stay on top of your game constantly throughout the day. You're going to be adjusting and modifying what you're doing because they're on the move. They're not going to wait for you.
He met the man said, can I buy some of that straw? What?
It's the process, not the product, that we're working with right now. And that is a paradigm shift for a lot of teachers.
They love play, and I love teaching them through play, but that really does take a lot of time to sit down and consider what their capacities are at this point, what the next little step is that I want them to take, what the next large step is that we're headed for, and then sort of fit in some intermediary pieces.
So for numeral writing, we learn how to write our numerals through song, and they're listening to the music, and then they're using their body, they're using their fingers, or they're using their elbows, or they're using their nose to go ahead and follow the directions of the song.
Make a circle, then a line.
And then activities where they're strengthening their fine motor skills and they don't know that that's what they're doing. The lacing, the Play-Doh, those types of things, the sensory tub, where they're actually getting in there and using their hands and making themselves just a better all-around student.
TK has a lot of self-selection, has lots more centers, and it's hands-on activities. It's the children working with manipulatives or some kind of a game and learning through play. In TK, we are trying to promote that conversation and get them to use their oral language.
I make sure that I have pieces in the room that go along with whatever theme it is that we're working on, and I will sit down and play with children in a manner that's using vocabulary that I've introduced maybe during a direct instruction piece. But what I really value about the free choice time for the children is their authentic language development that takes place.
Oviparous. Oviparous animals that lay eggs.
Very good, boys and girls.
TK students thrive in classroom settings where teachers have established daily routines and schedules that are predictable and consistent. Teachers vary the format to include both individual and group experiences throughout the day. Transitions that guide TK students from one activity or setting to another are also an important consideration.
Who's ready? Blue row. Ava, lead the way. Oh, I thought it was blue. We're following the leader, the leader, the leader. We're following the leader. It's time to go to recess.
Scheduling is really critical for young children. By having a predictable schedule, when they show up in the morning, they know what's going to happen during their day. They come in the morning, they know they're going to have their calendar time, they're going to experience a story, and then they're going to move into a work area time, then they're going to be able to write. That gives them that security. That security not only enhances their academics, but their social emotional, their self-regulation.
We'll have short 10 or 15 minute carpet segments, and we'll usually we'll put some music and movement and rhythm and song.
so when it's time to change, I lead off the song and I sing maybe the first 2 words, and then pretty soon they're singing it.
We have a wind chime that we ring, and that automatically sends a signal to the kids like, okay, it's time to either freeze or stop, drop, and pick up.
I really had to put a lot of thought and specific consideration into the transitions that I use with this age level, because they have this characteristic of needing to move a lot more. They have lots of interests, and they don't filter necessarily as effectively as children who are just a few months older than them.
Because they're 4, when they come in, they need a lot of movement, and they can only sit for about 20 minutes at the most.
I find that having a transition that the kids are sort of anticipating, they know then exactly what they're supposed to do with their body. So they know that if I'm doing 1-2 buckle my shoe, that they need to be at their place at the rug in order to do that routine with me. And it's much more effective than me running around the room hollering or scurrying or trying to corral, which I did try the first few weeks and it didn't work so well.
In the transitional kindergarten combination classrooms, differentiated instruction is the key to addressing the diverse developmental needs of students, just as it is in any classroom.
I like my puppy.
Good job. Kiss your brain. You worked really hard.
The TKIG combo class, I group based primarily on student needs and weekly goals. I had students who they need practice with just sounds. Then they're being exposed to blending and to reading, and they're hearing their peers blend and read. I have students who are ready to read or are on that verge. They're my readers. They're reading, they're writing. And so even though it's one lesson, there's different goals for each child.
Well, I do a lot of small group activities throughout the day, and some of them are with pre-organized groups that I've used assessments to look at discrete skills.
So I would have the different levels come to me at my teacher table for reading groups, for example. And for the students who are just learning letters, we would do lots of letter recognition games. And the type of learning where they don't know they're learning when they're learning, that works really well with them. And then as the level of the groups would become more academic and looking for a little more challenge, we would also do guided reading groups, and some groups would have actual leveled reading books that we would do. And we do the same with math and then with writing. It all would be differentiated.
Teachers who understand that all students benefit from differentiated instruction will find that the tools, curriculum, and routines they use to support typically developing students are easily adapted or modified to accommodate students with disabilities.
Having children integrated, no matter what their particular identifications are, has really been a beautiful experience for creating this friendship and this family feeling in the classroom. I have made sure to organize my day based on the attention needs of some of my children and making sure that they had things that I know they're looking forward to, sort of push towards the end of the day so that their stamina is able to extend a little bit longer and they're able to really engage. It has been great to have extra adult in the classroom, focused not just on the cluster of students who have special needs, but also able to work with all the children in the room and really helping them to develop skills and strategies for working with all children as well. So it does require me to do things a little bit differently, but it's the benefit that I see for the children. I think it's a really great model.
Given California's diverse population, TK teachers incorporate a variety of instructional approaches to support English learners. Teachers nurture language development in English while communicating value and respect for the home language. In these early years, oral language is at the heart of all instruction. By using real contexts and real objects to promote vocabulary development, teachers enhance their students' comprehension.
Grow. Can you pretend you're a little seed in the ground? And then make your sprout come up out of the ground and open up.
Transitional kindergarten has really followed along with that idea of oral language development being key for all children, but most especially for English learners. And in this comes that safe feeling to use your language, not only your home language, but bridging to English.
I have language learners in my classroom who, in an academic-focused group, are not as willing to share what they are thinking or what they're knowing and learning. But when they are in the midst of a creative thought process and a play environment with a peer, then language starts to come out. And I'm able to sit back sometimes and listen to what's happening between the children, and I have a much better analysis then and an observation of the progress that my students are making.
So, if you have a child who is an English language learner, and then you have another child who's an English-only child, they can both benefit from the vocabulary that we're introducing them to.
Even though I don't know that much Spanish, but I make an attempt to. And just the attempt goes a long way, and it really makes them feel valued, and it builds that relationship. I have a little girl. She speaks very little English right now. And at the beginning of the year, we had some problems with her in the cafeteria. She did throw her plate of food on the table. And later I found out that it was because she was cold lunch, and I didn't know she was cold lunch, and I made her have hot lunch. So she was very upset by that. And the next day, I saw her in the cafeteria at breakfast time. I sat next to her. She had a barrette in her hair, and I pointed to it, and I said, "Muy bonita." And she had a big smile. And from then on, she's always smiling, giving me hugs. And I felt like we've just built a relationship, and where, she trusts me.
This year I have 5 Spanish speakers in my classroom. And I'm so fortunate to have a bilingual instructional assistant who works with those 5 children and whatever skills they're needed. So I'll have her call them out first thing in the morning and do what we call front loading, where she'll take them back into the back of the room, and she goes through the story with them in Spanish, so they'll know what we're going to be doing in the afternoon when we do read the story, so they're familiar with what's going on.
The use of bilingual instructional aids is helpful, especially for those that don't speak the languages of the children, but also to really charge teachers with the idea that it's helpful to learn others' languages and to use some of that language in daily greetings and routines. And that also builds that bridge of valuing culture and identity and sharing, that safe sharing space where language can develop.